Do we let us know when we're live?
We are live now. We are live. We are live. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
It is episode 6. We have made it to the final episode of the My Vulva and Me series. I am so excited and so grateful for y'all for sticking with us for these 2 weeks. All of my great panelists, and tonight is going to be no different. As you know, I am Brittany Broaddus-Smith, founder of the intimacy firm and creator and host of My Vulva and Me. Tonight's episode is called It's a Hard Knock Life. And we will be looking at body image, self-esteem, healthy relationships, and the experience of Black girls who had experience in the child welfare system. I have 2 very wonderful, very brilliant, very beautiful women with me today that will help us dive into this very touchy or very tense, that could possibly be a very tense conversation, because there's a conversation that we don't have. We have a disproportionate representation of our Black children in the foster care and child welfare system, and we don't often talk about their needs just in general, and then their sexual health needs are even further removed from the conversation. But we're going to have that conversation tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, and we can start with Natasha.
Hello, everyone. My name is Natasha Wilson. I am currently founder and CEO of Travel with Tosh Travel Agency. In addition to that, and a little bit about my backstory, I did spend some time in the system, as it's coined, which very much a pivotal moment in transitioning my life to what it is now. And we'll obviously talk a little bit further, but I'm really excited to share. I love these kinds of platforms, again, to be able to align with other individuals and let people know that one story is similar to many stories. And so that it's a comfortable atmosphere to be in. So thank you guys for having me, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tasha. And now we have Ms. M-I-Z-Z, as she likes to call herself, Tina Roberts.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me, Brittany.
Speak up, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Speak up, I can't hear you. Speak up a little louder. Stop it.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tia Roberts, as Brittany just said. Thanks for having me, Brittany. I am founder and CEO of Tia's Place, which is my new nonprofit, standing for transitioning into childhood. We'll talk about that a little bit later too. My balloons behind me, I just got my master's degree in trauma counseling, so from Cashapp University, so that's why I had my little, background. Like Brittany said, we're going to talk about the life and being in and out the child welfare system, as they call the system. I was there briefly in and out, so we're going to discuss that, and hopefully we'll get to help somebody today.
Absolutely, that's awesome. And for me, I was a child. I did not. I've never been in foster care, but I've worked very closely with individuals and children and youth and families for my whole career. I started off as a in-home protective services social worker, where with the medical unit, and then from there I was a CUA supervisor, community umbrella agency. That's, if you're not familiar, in Philadelphia, we've shifted our child welfare system to community umbrella agencies, where the direct practice is provided by agencies separated by police districts. So I worked in the 35th and 39th Police District of Philadelphia for 4 years, and we were the largest CUA. We served the most families, and at any given time, at one point, I had about 85 or so cases at one time, which doesn't amount to 85 students. And Tia was my team as well, so she recognized we had families with 12 kids at one time. And so we're definitely going to dig into what that experience was like. But I want to do an icebreaker to kind of ground this space and just, ease everybody into the discussion. And so what we're going to do is a little trivia. And 90s R&B is the type of trivia that the type of music that I absolutely love. Although I'm realizing as I go along in life that I don't know it as much as I thought I did. And I just
and movies you don't know.
Okay, we're not talking about movies right now. We're not talking about that. But Natasha and I are around the same age, and then Tia's our elder. Bless her heart. She just celebrated her birthday. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to take some time. We're going to do that. So I'm going to you each will get a couple questions, and then whoever has the most will be our 90s trivia guru. Okay. If you know the answer, you could just go ahead and say it out loud. So question number 1: which Mary J. Blige song contains this line? We were lovers through and through, and though we made it through the storm.
Real love.
Real love. Yep.
Real love. Okay. Next. SWV stands for what?
Sisters with Voices.
Did you know that?
No.
Come on.
I know.
In the song Fiendin' by Jodeci, they take my money, my house, and what else?
My car.
My car.
Yes. Take my money. That was my jam. Yes. Okay. How many candles is Joe willing to light for his woman in All the Things Your Man Won't Do?
1,000. I light 1,000 candles on.
Take me to the okay.
Right.
Yep. Okay. No, we're not going to do that one because I don't know that, so y'all don't know that. There's something. I don't know who this is, but what was the title of Groove Theory's smash hit? I don't know who
Groove Theory.
I don't know who Groove Theory is. Tell Me, Touch Me, Tease Me, Stilo, or No Diggity. And I feel like No Diggity is Blackstreet, so I don't think that's right.
Yeah. It's not
Touch Me, Tease Me. Touch Me, Tease Me. Was that?
No, that wasn't. No.
I don't know who that is. That's who?
Case. Touch Me, Tease Me.
Case, right.
I don't know. All right, well, we're going to guess. It was Tell Me. No, that's Drew Hill. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's fine. Usher's 1997 platinum album, My Way, featured Nice and Slow. True or false?
True.
Yeah.
True?
False.
True. It was true. Popular 90s male group had the hit In My Bed.
Drill.
Yep. Okay, and last one is which popular 90s female group had the hit 808?
Black.
Yep. See, you know that.
I would have never gotten that. No.
Oh, like an 808.
I won.
Okay.
All right, last one.
Oh, sorry. That's last. You got a chance to tie it up.
Which female artist is featured on Donnell Jones' You Know What's Up?
Left Eye.
Yeah. Oh. I don't know. See?
Left Eye. Say what? Say what?
Left Eye, Little Kim, or Missy Elliott?
Left Eye.
Yes, that was it. Okay, and last one for the road. Notorious B.I.G.'s More Money, More Problems samples which 80s song? Nasty by Vanity 6, New Attitude by Patti LaBelle, Jump to It by Aretha Franklin, or I'm Coming Out by Diana Ross?
I'm Coming Out, Diana Ross.
And yes, that was it. You still lost.
I had to redeem myself.
I was never going to know. I was never going to know the answer.
I wasn't going to know that one either.
So that was just a little fun thing just to ease us into the conversation. But well, not really. It's not really connected in any way. But unless you were in the child welfare system in the 90s, which no, that doesn't work. I don't know. I was trying to find a smooth. It doesn't work. I just didn't like it. So we just.
It was just fun. It was just
we just have a good time. So
everyone loves music.
Right. So let's just jump right on it. So the title of today's episode is It's a Hard Knock Life. And as you know, made famous from the movie Annie, where they were talking about the rough time and the experiences that they had being in the orphanage. So so if you had to explain how your experience lines up with the definition of a hard knock life, does it align, or did you have a different experience? Like, what is your experience with child welfare? What makes you appropriate for this conversation?
Tasha, you want to go first?
Sure, sure. So my experience doesn't align with the song and or the movie, and my time wasn't very long. It was between 3 to 6 months that I spent in the system, and part of it I was with a foster family that was very loving and it was a situation where I was separated from my siblings. And at the time, it was 4 of us. So I was with family. My twin sisters were with another family, and my brother was with another family. But the family that I was with was very nurturing, caring. Took me to that was the first time I ever went to the circus. Like I remember these things vividly because they really did welcome me in. Like, you know, their home itself, it was. I remember it being like very, very dark because I was kind of young. I want to say I missed the second grade of my original school, so I was probably like 7 or 8 at the time. But when I left their home, I went over to St. Vincent's, and if anyone's familiar, that was a home. And then that was where I spent the remainder of my time, and I timed out there, and then was able to go back home. And my time at St. Vincent, it's so funny that we're discussing this now because I just was having this conversation with my boyfriend. As we both discovered, we both spent time at St. Vincent's, which was crazy.
Oh, wow.
I know, different points in our lives, but we both went there. And I was explaining to him that it was such a transitional moment for me because it kind of was that point where I realized I need to be the adult in my family because the adultness is lacking. And I'm this 8-year-old kid that really transitioned myself. And from that point on, I was sheltering over my siblings because I had to be. And so that has carried me now into my adulthood and just kind of being that motherly figure to my friends and those that are around me because I don't know anything else. So although the time wasn't the hard knock life experience that's described in Annie, it still very much was a pivotal point where you decide as a person what path you want to take.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for that, Touch. What, Tia, what about you? How, what was your
My experience was a little bit different from Natasha's. I don't know I could contribute to maybe the Annie Hard Knock Life thing. It depends. The time wasn't great for me at all. So I was adopted at birth. My adopted mom passed. I must have been about maybe 6. Went to live with relatives of hers. That didn't work out too well. They had other kids of their own. So I was like, I call it the Cinderella of the house. I had to cook and clean and do everything, you know. Experienced abuse there. When I started to like rebel, they took me actually to Southern Home for Children, which used to be in South Philadelphia. I don't know if that's even still around, Southern Home for Children, but it was in South Philadelphia. So I was there for maybe about 9 months, and the woman that adopted me, her daughter came and got me, and I was then with them, but they were older. So that part of my life was actually pretty good, but by them being older and they wanted me to be with younger people, they sent me to then another family member. You always have aunt such and such, uncle such and such. So went there, was physically and sexually abused. Now I began to just say, you know what, I'll be on my own, and started hanging out in the street and just, looking for, I guess, love. My cat is up there. I guess love. So my transition into adulthood was not like a transition. I might have maybe ran into a wall and fell and broke a hip. It wasn't like an easy transition. It was very hard for me to do. So, and I'm still learning. I'm there, but I'm still learning. So yeah, that was my experience with child welfare.
And so one of the themes that even though you all have different stories, one of the things that I heard that's kind of threaded up through both is this idea of having to rise to the occasion, if you will. It's like that, and you think Natasha, you said that adultness was missing, and so that as children we we should have access to the caregivers or the adults in our lives that will make sure we have all our needs met, that are behaving in a way that makes sure that we're good and that we're covered. But then for some people, particularly children who have experienced in child welfare system, they've lacked that person, or if they may have had that person and for whatever reason, that person has reached a place in their lives where they just couldn't provide.
Yeah.
Because I've had, being a supervisor, I have plenty of moms who really love and care for their children, don't want to neglect their children, but for whatever reason, they're going through a thing where they just can't be what they need to be. So being, Natasha, are you the oldest?
I am. Yep.
Yeah, so right, and so I'm the oldest as well, and I understand like this like forced parentification where it was like necessary for survival, and then the other aspect of that is almost feeling responsible for your siblings as well, and seeing how that connects through it all. And that's a theme that with my girls as a supervisor, they all had that parentification. Like my girls in foster care, or even if it was just an in-home service, they all had that. Like they had to step up. So what would be, and it's almost like connected to directly to even your personality now. So like, what would be different? How do you think things would be different for you if you didn't have to step up at such an early age?
If you didn't have the system, you said?
If you didn't have to step up, like if you weren't forced to step up.
I mean, it's hard to envision, at least for me, a life that would be different, because that time is so woven into the fabric of Natasha Wilson today. So I don't know, if I think about having come from a cookie cutter situation, would I be as resilient as I am today, or would I be as ambitious as I am, because I not only want to succeed for myself, but for my family and my siblings to have an anchor should anything happen, and to have a role model to continue to look forward to. So like, as an adult, you continue to reflect on your past, and not in the sense of, I wish I could have done something different, but what did I learn from this situation, and how is it now impacting me? And I find myself doing that a lot. But I really couldn't say, like, if I didn't have to step up and essentially miss my childhood because I had to be an adult and cover my family and those around me, what would I be? I don't know. And I don't even know that I would want to be anything different, because I enjoy who I am today. And I know that it's because of those layers of my upbringing that really navigated where I am now.
I totally agree. I mean, maybe when I was younger, I might have had, dreams of being, in a regular family and doing regular stuff. But I mean, I miss it right now. I don't miss it. I think about it because of my children. I wish I wish I could tell them about my side of the family. But other than that, I don't think I would take back, well, maybe some things that I went through, but it may be who I am, I like who I am. It was, a rough road getting here, but who I am has really, pretty much informed everything that I do, think, everything. As far as me being, I don't think I was parentified. I think I just, I made myself want to be this adult, because in my mind I was looking for love. So, yeah, I wouldn't take it back. It may be who I am.
And the thing is, like, I think that story is so, even for folks who don't have the child welfare experience, like just like Black women, this idea of like trial by fire experiences throughout childhood and life, that kind of, that's this idea of it made me who I am today. Like, for some of us don't have the privilege of learning from the mistakes of others. We've had to make those mistakes ourselves. We had to, be the one that took the bullet, so that other folks were coming behind us, whether it be siblings or other family members. It's like, that's like a common story where you just have to, again, this whole idea of having to step up. And so when I think about children and Black girls or who are in a system now, it's almost like this idea of being grown, if you will, is used as like some folks don't see it, but I look at these little girls when I worked with them, and my heart would break for them because it's like the facade that they put up is they need it for survival because of whatever they're coming from, whatever situation that they're in. If they aren't tough, if they aren't hard, if they're not sassy, if they're not acting like nothing bothers them, then
They'll never make it.
Crippled by their circumstance. And so when you think about all that, you've been doing, that you've been through, what you had to ordeal, what are some of the coping mechanisms or even defense mechanisms that you developed then that you see can even be used or still in play even today?
I mean, I can go. It's funny because I've still developed coping mechanisms up until last week. Just honestly, dealing with my relationship with my mom and how we interact, and how I kind of just need to compartmentalize and recognize that it's not about and I give her what she can receive and accept that is okay. So like I said, and that was just because she called me super late on my birthday. My birthday was May 7th, and I was just like, what is going on? But to again acknowledge like people aren't you, and recognizing the different ways to move on from it. So, my coping is still being developed now because I still want to, there's a part of me that always still wants anybody, your mom, and you cling on to that little girlness and have that relationship. But it changes, and it's up to you to, for me, I choose the path of acceptance and forgiveness. But for some of my siblings, they choose the path of just letting it go and letting it be and wanting to apart. So everybody has a different way to deal. Growing up, my coping mechanism was to involve myself with a bunch of extracurricular activities in school, just so that I didn't have to go home. That's it. So, school would let out 2:30, and I'm in this practice at 3 and this practice at 5, and it's releasing at 8, and now all I got to do is go home and go to bed and hope nobody bothers me. Like that was how I got through it. And it worked for me. It doesn't necessarily work for everybody, depending on the resources that are available to you. Like I was fortunate enough to go to a Catholic high school where there was an abundance of activities available that I could sign up. But again, I recognize that everyone's story and everyone's resources are different. So finding what works for you is pivotal, but not giving up on yourself is even more important.
That's really good. The resources piece of that is because I've seen a lot of young girls want that saying that escape experience. Like I don't want to go home, so let me do X, Y, and Z, so I don't have to. But some of our more financially strapped neighborhoods, particularly where the child welfare services find themselves, there aren't those resources in the school. Right. And so they find themselves in places with people, places, and things that they shouldn't, and in more trouble because of that very thing, because they don't want to go home. And as a child welfare work, it's our job to look at like what are you avoiding? So that resource is huge. Tia, what about you? What coping mechanism or defense mechanism you think you developed?
Wow. I was angry for a long time. I was very rebellious. I had trust issues, which I probably still have. I don't think they're as bad as they were, but I'm pretty sure they're still there. I'm not as angry as I used to be, but I still feel some type of way that I'm alive. Like you never wanted to see how I was doing. That bothers me a little bit, not as much as it used to. So, but what I do is I try to focus on giving my kids what I didn't have. So that's where all my, that's where I put all my attention at now. That and trying to make sure other people that experience what I experienced have a better resource, if you will. than what I did. As far as like, just have somebody to talk to about it. It's hard knowing that your mom is out there and that she doesn't want you. That's it's a different way. If you know she's out there and she's trying her best to do what she can to bring the family back together, but to know she's out there and that wants no part of you, that's a lot. So yeah. So I'm still working on my coping mechanisms.
Right. And so just a follow-up question then, do you think, and Natasha, if you have an answer this, you can answer as well, but Tia, do you think that in any way on the other end of the spectrum from a coping mechanism, that there's any way that any behavior that you feel may possibly be overcompensating for what you didn't have, or like, and then, yeah.
Any behavior? Probably so. I'm pretty sure. And that the most, I wouldn't say behavior though. Maybe the emotion would be my trust.
Okay.
I think the emotion would be my trust.
So
behavior, now I wouldn't call it behavior. I would say an emotion. I don't think. So would you say my behavior?
I mean, I ain't gonna tell you business. I may or may not look at, because like Tia's an amazing mom. Like, we'll go to the end of the earth and for our children. But I think that this is not germane to her. I've seen a lot of parents have this thing where when they say, I want to give my children everything that I didn't have, they're like, OD, because when our baby boy get ready to go to prom, it's just gonna be so gross. I thought it was bad. This thing's finna be so, like it's getting ready to be horrible. It's getting ready to be shows and shenanigans, like for real. And so like that was kind of like what I was into. Like, do you feel like you like go out of your way? Like, I think we all go out of our way to be good parents, but like in any way, like is there any way like you show up to kind of like stick it to what you did, like them, in a way that like you didn't do this, or I didn't have this, but look at who I am now anyway? Like, is there like any way? Because I know like in this person, like again, that wasn't my experience, but my dad, I didn't grow up with my dad. So there was time, and then now that my mom's passed, he's, trying to show up. And I noticed, and I had to check myself one time, that I was like intentionally like, oh, don't want me now. Like, you me before.
Right.
Don't brag about me now. Don't tell your friends about all my degrees now, because where were you when I needed book money?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what's up? So it's like, so that was like, is there, like, do you have any, like a nana boo boo type of?
I think just being there for them. I think like we're all, as you know, are very close. We're all close. Like, we're all close. Don't judge me. But I think just being and just letting them know that I'm here, no matter what, I'm here. So I think that, but I don't think it's overcompensating. It may a little bit. I don't know. It may be. It may be.
It's easier to say because you're in it. outside.
On the outside, I'd be like,
right.
But it's funny because I look at it too, like that's my girlfriend, so I can be like, Tia, you drawing. But then as a girl who didn't have that close of a relationship with her mother, I'm just like, I also see the beauty of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the way, as close as they are, is just like so amazing. And like, and my last question that leads into my last question with this part before we get specifically into the sexuality piece is that, is there any part that you are still grieving? Like we still have, you still, that's how you like had that experience with you came back home and you have your relationship that you have with your mom, and then Tia, you've had your ebbs and flows with different family members, and like that your mom is around or and that type of thing. But is there any, although we've grown and are whole and healed and all of these things, is there any part of that experience that you're still grieving?
Absolutely. For me, yeah. Go ahead, Natasha. Yeah.
I would say I'm still, even though, like you said, Brittany, you've grown up and you've shed and you've let it go, but you're always going to grieve in some capacity what you didn't have. Even though they say don't cry over spilled milk, I'm grieving a childhood that I really didn't get to experience because I had to step up. I'm grieving the relationship with parents because that's something that you should have as a child. You know, your dad should, as a girl's dad, there's certain responsibilities that when you don't have that, you're stuck navigating on your own, and you're gonna have some bumps and bruises along the way that you really could have avoided. So you're grieving that. You're grieving a relationship with a mom that, you know, you want to talk as you're getting older. You know, you want to talk about sex. You want to talk about being in a relationship and potentially finding the one. You want to talk about marriage, and you know, you might be stuck having weird conversations because this person doesn't really know you. So even though you have now reached a comfort with your own self and you have gained success and you've gained knowledge and you've done the things that you wanted to do, there's always a part of you that's like, dang, I just wish I had. Like I said, even as of 2 weeks ago, when I didn't get the phone call that I was anticipating for a milestone birthday, it still had me on the back foot, even though you know the track record of the person.
That part.
So, I mean, as comfortable as I am, there's always going to be that component because I'm always going to have love for that person. That won't ever die. So therefore, the emotion that's attached with it will still have a flame.
Yeah, and it's almost just like that feeling of, and although we say this term that I'm getting ready to say as it relates to romantic relationships, but it's still that same pining, almost like the one that got away.
Mm-hmm.
Like we kind of idealize relationships
Yep.
that wasn't that didn't happen. It didn't happen the way we wanted it to happen. We idealize it, and then as when it's a parent-child relationship, there's always that little. To me, I feel like there's always just like a small piece of that little girl that may show up to the encounter first, and then the one with all the sense and who
Right.
and all that will jump in front of them. But depending how fast you turn around, it's just that small little piece, and then it's like you had that moment where you like, girl, you know better, you
knew better,
and it's still just like, because you having my mom pass. I said to just, a few friends, well, I'm telling the world now, but I said to a few friends that I was almost relieved that she passed because of things that I had to deal with when she was here. And Tia doesn't like what I said because she thinks that her and my mom was friends, and they were not.
We were.
But you did not know her. But
I did so.
But anyway, but when I think about it, what I'm grieving is the relationship that we didn't have. And so when I see people who have relationships with their mothers that are really close and they die and they like fall apart, like I can't relate even to my sister who has fallen apart and even now have her moments where she just can't get herself together over my mom. And I'm just like, I don't understand, because it's like, but then when I do grieve and I do have the moments when I'm grieving, is not what we actually had, is what I wanted, and the idea that I will never have that opportunity. So when we think about being adults now and growing and being whole and healed, and that little bit of growth still being there, we still have to recognize that we are adults now. So that mommy that we wanted is never going to, because we're an adult. So she can't mommy us anymore because we are grown women. So there's a relationship that we may be able to develop. There may be a friendship there, but it won't kind of ease that, if you will, because we're not that little girl. We're not a little girl anymore. Tia, but did you answer anything that you may still be grieving?
Well, I guess the part about my mom. I really don't know if I'm grieving it now, if I'm actually just like trying to avoid it. I don't know which is worse. I might be trying to more so avoid it now. I don't think I grieve it anymore, because it never made me angry. It never made me sad. It made me angry, and the anger wasn't good for me. Like I don't really remember being sad. I always remember being angry about it. So yeah, but I still think I think about it from time to time. I don't think I think about it more than what could have been. Only way I think about it is what I would have liked my kids to be able to have.
Yeah.
I've taken myself completely out of the equation. Like it is what it is. You're not gonna have her. She's not gonna be here. But I wish they could have had her. So, but that brings along the anger though too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can see that I agree of, because my mom and my boys were really close. Like my mom were like best friends. Like I dreaded telling him more than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that like now they won't have. And then the low key like sorry, like you were super grandma, but then when I needed you, I was like, where did all of this come from? Like when did you develop all of this?
Right.
Okay, so to slide into the transition to the sexuality piece, Natasha, you said you wanted to talk about sex, you want to talk about relationships and marriage and all that, and not having that. What this on like the base level? Like, let's just look at how did you all work? Did you all have to, or were you able to manage something, you know, as basic as like puberty? Like, what was that like for you? Develop, you know, experiencing your first menstrual cycle, stuff like that.
Craziest story about my first menstrual cycle. The person who helped me through it was my stepdad. Like I know. I remember calling my mom, and she was like, "I don't know what you want me to do. Call your stepdad." Like, so he went out, and that's why to this day I always use Excedrin extra strength to manage any cramping that I get, because that was his first reaction. He was like, "I don't know, but here's Excedrin," and I'm just curled up on the bathroom floor. But to this day, and I never really even told him, but it is one of those things where that was a major moment. And the person who was there was my stepdad, who's amazing. I mean, he and my mom have been together for 25 years now, but like, it's that kind of stuff. You're like, okay, technically, I'm still figuring this out by myself because he knows I do, but we don't work it out. Like, crazy. But yeah, I mean, it was an interesting time, but you know, I got through it. Even crazier story, I didn't even know how to use a tampon or really what a tampon was until I got to college. So my roommate, like, she was like, "What are you doing?" I didn't know, and this, don't judge me because I'm 18 at this point.
Judgment free.
No judging.
I didn't know that you are supposed to remove the plastic part.
Oh, girl, this could be no judgment because I had the same story.
Yeah.
So she's like, "Try this because what you're doing, that ain't it." And I do it, and I come back, and I'm like, this is really uncomfortable. Like,
right.
And I'm like sitting there and we're like hanging, and I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I'm squirming. And she goes, "Well, what did you do?" And I was just like, "I just put it in there." And she was like, "Okay." And I was like, "The whole thing, plastic, everything, child, the plastic was inside."
My first tampon, I knew enough to take the stick out because I recognized you push it and pull it.
Right.
Whole thing was indicated. I thought I did something because I saw the string. I knew about the string, but that whole plastic was in there with the piece at the top just cutting me to bits. And I was
I was like, why does this get like this? No wonder I never do.
Like, who does this? Why y'all weird? I thought it was like I wasn't having sex. I was like, oh, that's why. Because
I said the same thing. I was like, oh, that's, you know, I don't know what y'all been doing, but that ain't me.
What kind of? I was like, what kind of y'all got? Did this feel? I don't understand. Like, how big is it that this doesn't hurt? Like,
I literally was blaming everybody else except for myself.
Yep.
My experience was, well, back in my day.
What day is this? What year was this? Help us set the scene.
I'm sorry.
What year was this? Help us set the scene so we can know.
I was
Okay.
I may have been 9 or 10.
I can't.
What year was that?
I don't know what year it was. No judging. No judging. Okay. Just know that when tampons were no back then for us, we wore Stay Freeze. They were really, really thick. It was like you would put it on. You would have to ask your friend. watch me walk, you see a big bulge because that's how thick and long they were. So you have to. Sometimes you might need to wear 2 pair of pants to keep it from because they were so thick. And
Oh my God!
so you put on you see it's okay because it'll be a big bulge right here. And
oh my God!
Right.
It was horrible.
How did you when you first got it? Like, who taught you about it? How did you know what to do?
Nobody really taught me about it. The people I was living with at the time, her daughter had already had it, so I learned from her. They weren't really talking to me, so I learned from her. It was bad though. I had cramps very, very bad. I remember that night. But nobody said anything to me. The pads in the bathroom, and that was pretty much it. So I came up with that by myself, on my own, just laying in the bed, curled up, and this great big stay free on, and horrible.
So what type, if you remember, what kind of conversations about sex and sexuality happens in child welfare and group homes, or like what if any, is there any dedicated conversation about sex and sexuality?
I mean,
when I worked in group homes, I would have a conversation. They didn't have.
No, I mean, I'm talking about your first. Before we get to that part, your when you were there, when you were at Southern, like, can you remember?
Absolutely not. No.
Yeah, I mean, and I also feel like I was at an age where that wasn't the conversation. That was 7, 8, so that probably wasn't pertinent. I also didn't get the information as it continued on because of my Catholic schooling education, and that being something that was taboo. So there was no sex ed in school, so therefore there was no conversation about what you should do and what you shouldn't, because you shouldn't be doing it for marriage period. So to have this conversation in this environment is a no-no. So it was a lot of discovering along the way, which again had the parental guidance, you would have at least had something at home when you're not getting it in any other capacity other than exploration. That's not it.
That's right. And being the oldest, you didn't even have like an older sibling to kind of like glean from. Like, you had to get all the information and then pass it, kind of pick
trial and error here.
Right. And then you being the only child is like, where do I get this? Like, where I get it? So have you ever had any sex education, like a course where you sat in a class and somebody taught you sex ed?
Me?
Either, both of them.
Oh, well, in high school, we had sex ed in high school. The time that I went to class, we had sex ed. I'm not to say it wasn't really explicit though. It was our sex ed back in school was mainly about the sexual transmitted diseases. Where kind of, if you don't get this disease, that's pretty much it. It wasn't really informative, and they didn't go too deep with it. And I was in high school, 19, blah, blah, blah. So, so it may be different now, but it was real, just basic,
So you didn't leave out of there equipped for anything?
Absolutely not.
So where did you learn what you both of you what you know about sexual health, not just sex and the mechanics of it and what to do and what goes where, but sexual health, like how you care for your body, what goes in your vulva, what does it, what a vulva is, like where did you learn that?
Trial and error for me, and I'm still learning.
I was about to say, still learning.
I have my 4 close girlfriends, we talk, but that's from trial and error, and I'm still learning. And I'm just being honest,
Definitely still. I would attend ed class today. I know. Very much still learning and figuring it out. Now we have YouTube University. We did not have that back then. So if I do come across something that I'm curious about, then I have more resources now. But there's a lot of stuff that I know I don't know about my own body. I just started using Summer's Eve.
Do Summer Eve to do what?
Watch this.
To wash, not a douche.
Oh, girl!
You
No,
see her
no,
face, you see her face, Natasha? She got everything.
I was
No.
about to, what? Stop that right now. Go pour it out right now.
21st century, they just have other products. It's not a douche. They just got regular water.
I know a friend of mine who uses, I personally just promote Dove and Dove alone. White Dove, that's it, that's all. But I know some people, not Summer's Eve, is that Refresh or is that two different brands?
No, Summer's Eve, well, Summer's Eve will be the main.
I don't know. Refresh, I heard it's like similar to Summer's Eve, but even like those, any products that have like scents and flavors and stuff like that is like a no-fly zone for you. And I've said, "Vulva, y'all met Veronica."
Hey, Ronnie.
This is my vulva puppet.
I can't.
I was on Kyrie's show not too long ago, and Veronica was one of the guests. And I pray for you. I'm just gonna say I pray for you because I take Veronica with me everywhere I go to.
Yes, you do.
Conversations about, like, she goes on a plane with me. She gets her own seat. Like, this is my girlfriend. And so I've said vulva a bunch of times. Like, do you use the word vulva? That's the first thing. Do you know what that is?
I use the word vulva now.
Do you know what it is, or did you begin to use it because of it?
I began to use it when you told me what it, so that's what it was.
And so
I don't use the word at all. I know what it is, but I don't use the word. No.
So what do you say? What word do you use?
We really don't have a word. I need to come in here. We really don't have a word because to us we don't say that. We don't really have a word.
Taboo.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be though. Like, we say finger, we say foot, we say neck, head, shoulders, knees, vulva, labia.
I'm sorry, son. Did you say? My son just said they say cookie.
No.
Okay. But when I was talking to girls about when they were young, I would say vagina.
Okay. I mean,
we would say cootie cat growing up.
Yeah, my mom called it a funky monkey. So
funky monkey.
Funky monkey.
Wow.
She would say, Brittany and Whitney, come brush your teeth, wash your face, and wash your funky monkey. And that's what that is very inappropriate. And then it's just like the shame and stuff that happens when we call body parts nicknames is just, that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But so, Natasha, how do you relate or refer to given your experience, given not having had sex ed in school and this whole trial and error process and figuring it out, and like, what is your relationship like with your vulva?
Keep it clean and keep it together. Otherwise, it's just, I treat it the same way. Like when I say keep it together, like wax and make sure it's good in taken care of, manicured. But I probably should care for it more, but I probably treat it like my armpit.
Not your armpit, Not
your armpit. I make sure it's clean, it smells good, it's waxed, and it's taken care of.
When's the last time you took a mirror and looked at your vulva?
I do that when I shave. I would put the mirror on the trauma seat and straddle the mirror, and I will shave.
And you do that regularly, so you know, like, you can recognize if it's just some color is off, if something's hanging a little bit lower than it used to. You think
yeah. I don't really, because I'm just shaving. I don't really
pay attention
to it. I don't know.
So would you all be able to pick your vulva out in a lineup?
No.
I think I can. I hope I can.
I recommend that, like, there's no like rhyme or reason to it, or no like hard and fast number, but I recommend women look at their vulva once a month. Like after their cycle, it's over, and everybody, we're all cleaning things down there. Take a mirror, notice what you need to notice, and and things like that. And so that, because for me, you need to know what your baseline is, so that if something were to happen, you'll be able to tell. If you have to go to the doctor or something like that, you'll be able to say, "This is what I usually am, and this is what's happening," so that you can advocate for yourself when something happens. Because there are a lot of times that we experience things can happen and be that because we're not looking at it, we're not paying attention to it, that we catch things, and it could be a bit late. And then particularly now with insurance moving, at one point you could get a pap smear every year. So unless you have a normal pap, they've moved it to 3 years. Some insurances even said 5 years, and I just absolutely ridiculous. Like I know I make mine. I don't even care if I have to. I make mine every 3 years. Is 3 years and 5.
I
can throw a whole new one in 5 years. Like that's just too much. But so I definitely recommend regular visitation, if you will, with your vulva, so that you are accustomed with it. So, and I think that my next question would be what. Wait, no, Tia, you didn't answer the question. What's your relationship with your vulva?
I think I have a pretty good relationship with her. We're pretty close. We're pretty close. But that's been, like in the last maybe 15, 20 years, maybe. Because again, back in my day, that was taboo. You talk about your vagina. That was taboo. That was, and if you did, you're too grown.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
and unfortunately, today is still taboo.
Talk about it, to even learn about it, and explore it.
Which is why my vulva and me came to be, because we need to talk about it. We need to understand.
Is that the golden clit shirt? Oh my! I want one. I want one.
Yes, it is. This, folks in the audience, is a clitoris. Some people think that the clitoris is just this little section right here, but it is really a 3D structure that rests inside the vulva and really can be reached through when you hit your G spot. That's what you're touching, is the roots of your clitoris. And so knowledge of anatomy has proven to make for a better sexual and more pleasurable experience. So you should know that. And then that way, when you know your body, you know your vulva, you know what works for you, what doesn't work for you, then you can be lends itself to more sexual authenticity, sexual agency, and autonomy in relationships and things like that. So when we think about just children in general who aren't privy to these type of conversations, right? And then we think about experiences with as a child welfare social worker and supervisor, I know that there were nights we didn't know where some of these babies, and I call them all babies regardless of their age, are going to sleep. We were figuring out what clothes they were going to wear. It was like basic survival for some of them, where sexual health and conversations about that were privileges. And so I wasn't able to, even though I would love to talk to a potential resource parent, as they call it now, and say, hey, what is your position on comprehensive sex education? What type, if you want to have teen girls, how often will you talk to them about contraception? Like those kind of things. Like we can't be picky when resource parents are so few and far between. And then we have some, unfortunately, that taking a lot of kids just for money and not really pouring into them, or even worse, pour 100% into their own children, and then have the foster care or the resource children there as just like add-ons, and it is a definite difference from what they get from this, but they're always feeling like the outsider. And so when you're investigating that, was there any experience where you felt like you had questions that you really had this, you didn't know where to turn? Like can you remember a time where there was like a specific question that you wanted to ask regarding your body or whatever, and you didn't know or didn't have anywhere to turn?
Tash, you want to go first?
Yeah.
You all Tosh like you know her. Go ahead.
You are so jealous of our relationship.
Now we can hang out.
Go see Tosh.
I'm here for it. Don't worry. I'm trying to think. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if this is a common answer or not, but the moment of losing virginity, not really understanding what's going on, and getting that information from the opposites that seems like not to make any sense, but at that time, that's all you have available, you know? So I remember being very confused, but also at the same time feeling like it was normal, if that makes sense, with the conflicting emotions. I didn't understand how to describe it to myself or to my partner at the time. And I'm just getting the information that he's telling me, but it didn't make sense. And at that point, I wish that I could lean on someone else or just at least have another resource or have a little bit more information. And again, you have to remember the Catholic schooling education also made me uncomfortable in feeling like I could seek out adults that were around me at the time, because it's like, you're not supposed to be doing that. So it just was not a cool time at all. To not, again, have that parental guidance in addition to just going through life as a woman and experiencing the things that we do. It's really challenging when you have to figure it out on your own as you go.
Yeah, and that's not uncommon. I've heard that a lot, that of women saying that their male partner taught them about their body, or what they learned about sex and sexual activity came from the partner that they were having sex with at the time. That's not that definitely isn't uncommon. What about you, Tia?
And see that also, but also too, when you know everybody else is doing it, you know, you really, well, for me, I really wasn't worried about even learning about losing my virginity. All I know is I had to do it because everybody was doing it, so I had to do it. And so I never thought about, you know, like I said, learning about, you know, what's done. I have to do it because everybody else is doing it. And actually, when I did it, I got pregnant for the very first time. So, and the guy was older, and from what Natasha said, you know, from learning from a guy, that wasn't my experience, because he didn't tell me, he didn't give a damn. He didn't really tell me anything about, you know, all he knew was I was a virgin, he wasn't, so I'm gonna be good, you know, and that was it. So yeah, for me it wasn't that. I mean, mine was more so I have to do it because I'm probably the only one that haven't done it yet.
Different time for sure.
Yeah, right.
But you know, Tia's her comments brought up another point where it's that act of losing, it didn't feel as sacred as it's supposed to, because I didn't have anybody explaining to me that this is something that A, you can't come back from. B, it's gonna feel this way. C, you know, choose wisely. All those things. It was just a happen on the fly stand there. Yeah, I remember it because of what it was, but it's not anything that is worth writing home about when it should be. So for anyone out there that hasn't had that experience yet, understand that it is a very different moment in your life that you should not only remember, but understand and cherish if that's what
cherish it. Yeah.
But I didn't see that opportunity. It just, like Tia said, it just happened.
Yeah, and it's interesting that, like you said, that's what you choose to do. Like, folks have different values around, you know, virginity and things like that. Even in the field of sexuality, I've adapted the term of sexual debut for or sexual and education fields like sexual initiation and that kind of thing. And really just teaching. My hope is that to help, even with, like, you know, I work a lot of time with people of faith who choose in abstinence until marriage, and so I support individuals who have that belief. But for those who don't, my thought is just being sure that you're sure, giving enthusiastic consent, knowing what you're getting yourself into, knowing what you're doing, knowing the person that is happening with. It doesn't have to be rose petals and candles, although I had rose petals and candles.
Yes.
Oh,
But then he also broke up with me later.
But then it broke up with me.
2 weeks later. So the rose petals, the candles. We was rose petals, candles, and we played 500 like that. So that was I don't know what was happening. They're playing a card game.
Natasha, we need a do-over.
Right.
We need a do-over.
No, but then he broke up with me 2 weeks later, and I was just like, oh, so, and that really for me, and this is not what we're talking about today, but that really showed me that like certain folk would do whatever is necessary to get that to get what they want in whatever way. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, I learned from that. I see the game. But so as we're at our hour mark, and as we are coming to a close, this was a really good conversation. I appreciate you all's transparency and willingness to have this conversation. So if you, how we want to close out is that if you were standing in front of a group of girls who is currently in the child welfare system or had experience in the child welfare system, what would you say to them to encourage them? Take a few seconds to encourage a young Black girl right now who is either currently in the child welfare system or had experience with them that will equip them or encourage them for their future. I probably should have told you that. No, so y'all could.
You probably should have. But
sorry.
My favorite line is something that I go on, even for myself. I always say to myself, my past is not going to make me. It's not going to make me different from. It's not. I'm trying to think how do I put it. I would tell a girl, don't let your past discourage you from looking for a better future. Like your past is your past. It is what it is, but don't let it stop you from trying to be better. Cherish who you are. Cherish even what you've been through. That's gonna make you who you are. Yeah. I would say more, but it was an actual saying that I had to say, but since you put me on the spot.
My bad. My bad.
I think mine might be similar, but I say this, and I've really been saying it a lot more now, is don't forget to celebrate your small victories. Like, I understand that this is not easy. And I mean, I've shared my story and I've shared where I was and where I am and how I've gotten here. But it's important to celebrate your small victories. You know, as we talked about earlier, resources are different depending on circumstances, but utilize the resources that are available to you. And a resource right now being 3 women who can share in some semblance of your story and help you to navigate. You know, mentors are resources, books are resources. The internet is a resource if we switch gears from TikTok to research. So utilizing your resources, but also understanding that your small victories count towards your larger ones. And that logic really helps me to continue to navigate, even in my adulthood now. And like I said, at the beginning, it's even more prevalent in your adulthood than it is in your youth, because you're celebrating your small victories at the same time you're celebrating yourself, because it's so easy to be consumed with all the negativity that's around you, and then that creates self-doubt, and then that's creating just a sense of I can't, and that phrase alone will hold you back. So continuing to remember that you're victorious by still getting up every day despite the circumstances that you're in. That's a celebrating of small victories. And I really wouldn't have been able to navigate if I didn't understand all the little successes that I was still gaining despite my circumstances. So
and learn to love yourself. A lot of our young adults and teenagers don't even know how to love themselves. Learn to love yourself.
Yeah, that's good. So won't you all tell everybody, and then I still have my announcements to make, but I want you all to first tell everybody how they can stay in touch with you, how they can support you. I put their Cash Apps in the description because they were so kind to participate in this for me without asking me for anything. But y'all go ahead and sew into these wonderful much as they could, because I honestly do not like asking Black women to do free labor. Black women are asked to do free labor all the time, and particularly emotional labor. So any way that I could either barter services or pour into them or solicit other people to pour into them, I can, but I truly appreciate.
Oh, she froze.
I think it froze, yeah.
Oh, there she go. You're back.
Am I back? Okay, sorry. I appreciate them believing in the vision of my VULVA and me and agreeing to participate. So, Tia, how can people stay in touch with you? How can they follow you? How they can support you? What do you have going on? Let the people know.
Right now, I have my nonprofit that I'm just starting. It's been about a year, but I'm just starting to like get into it since I finished school. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Tia's Place, Tia's Place Filters on Facebook and Instagram. My website is coming, and in a couple months, my website is coming. But I have my email, troberts@tiasplace.gov. I don't know my phone number offhand, but it's on my page. And just, yeah, support me.
Make sure y'all follow Tia. Our Instagram is Tia's Place _PHILA. I remember.
Yeah.
So make sure y'all support Tia and all that she's doing. Tasha, how can people stay in touch with you, follow you, support you?
Absolutely. So I'm on all social networks at Travel with Tash, or my personal page is at TashWils. In addition to that is at travelwithtash.net. Obviously, as we talked about, travel is kind of a taboo now, but it's coming back. So utilize your resources, as we talked about as well. So I'll be available for you, and support me, and I'll support you.
Awesome. And so my announcement. So my VULVA in Me, the series is coming to print. My VULVA in Me. So I am turning my VULVA in Me into an anthology for Black women, about Black women, by Black women. So please go right now to www.theintimacyfirm.com and sign up to be an intimacy insider, so that when the call for submissions go out, that you will be the first to know. These will be paid submissions, because, like I said, I don't believe in people doing anything for free. So I want all essays, stories, short stories, poems, graphics, anything that celebrates and puts and centers the bodies of Black women. I want to hear from you. That it's open for all ages, all backgrounds, as long as you are a Black woman or could grow up to be a Black woman, and you have a vulva. I want to hear from you. So yes, My VULVA in Me is coming to print. I am so excited about this.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
I am hopeful that this will be received just as well as this series. And so we are closing out. This was 6 episodes, 2 weeks of just about 12 speakers, and it was really amazing. I want to thank everybody, every comment, every view, every visit. We have over 3,000 views on between Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. And this was a passion project of mine, and you all showed up and showed out, and I truly appreciate you. So thank you so much, and we are out. See ya.
Bye.
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 Hold on. Let me end it.